All right, we are back for another episode of The Two Types of People. Today, we got a special treat. For those of you that are local to the Jacksonville Beaches area, we have Steve Wheatcroft, a former PGA pro, just a heck of a guy, turned philanthropist. So before we get into everything about you, Steve, there are two types of people in this world. What are they?
Ooh, two types of people. I assume there's no wrong answer here?
There's no wrong answer.
No right answer either?
There may be a right answer.
Right
we'll
answer.
See.
I'm going to go with two different answers, I guess. There's talkers and listeners.
Okay.
Are you a talker or are you a listener? Do you take it in or do you like to give it out? And then there's givers and there's takers.
Okay.
So are you the type that likes to give to others, or do you the one that is always looking to receive from others?
Okay, so let's start with the first one then, talkers and listeners. So
Yep.
What aspect of you answered that question? Because we're going to go through the history of everything that you've accomplished and
Yep.
some of the trials that you've had in your life, especially recently, but what aspect of you answered that question?
What aspect of me? I don't know exactly how to answer that part. I know that I heard a statement one time. Somebody told me, God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. And it's like you're designed to listen more than you are to talk. So I think that you learn more. If you're talking, you already know something, right? If you're listening, you might not know what they're saying or what's coming at you. So I think it's always better to listen first and talk second.
There you go. And I think that's a great example of the whole premise of this project, the show, the book, is there is no wrong answer. There is no right answer. When you look at the two types of people, it's about the dichotomy of self, right? It's
Yep.
what happens externally versus internally. It's about the decisions that you make day to day, minute by minute. And so you're not always going to be a talker. You're not always going to be a listener.
Yep.
The little that I know you, but I've gotten to know you a little bit so far, you are a great listener, but you're also a talker. You're
Yep.
on stage. You have your own podcast. So,
Yep.
so talk to me about the times where talking, maybe not necessarily out of turn, but where you've been quick to jump to maybe assert your opinion or start
Yep.
talking, and you've realized after the fact, you know what, that probably wasn't a great thing.
Yeah, I use my talking platform now as a way to get others to talk. I've kind of seen the power in words and the power of a hope that your words can present to somebody else. And, the message that I had sent out through, and again, we'll get into this later, but the message that I sent out had such a ripple effect and hit so many people so hard that, by me inspiring others to talk, but I had to be the first one to talk, I guess. I had to be the first one to talk, but it inspired so many others to talk afterwards.
There you go.
Which is great. And then I get to learn more from them, from their listen, or from my own listening to them talking. So I hope that made sense.
It does.
Came out a little clumsy.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just, I think where you're going with this is it's not necessarily just about words. It might be about action too, right?
Correct.
So let's go all the way back, because I think this is a good way to get into
Sure.
the history of you. So let's start at your college career and tell us a little bit about how you got into golf and what you did in college, and we'll take a little trip here.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'll make it as quick as I can here. But
No, we got time.
born and raised in Pittsburgh area. I was the outdoor kid. I played all the sports. I played baseball for 10 or 12 years. I played basketball for 8 years. I golfed all the time. I skied. I played volleyball. I mean, you name it, I was doing it. If it got me outside, I went and did it. So slowly kept narrowing the sports down one after another. It was either going to be baseball or golf. And I just like the individuality of golf. I like that if I went out there and performed, nobody could tell me no. Right? So if baseball, you do well, there's always politics involved, as you well know, with your baseball background. But in golf, if I shot a number, nobody could tell me no. If I won the tournament, nobody could tell me no. There was no politics involved, right? You got what you got. And so I looked at playing in college. I got recruited by basically no one. I got a couple of Division III and NAIA, I won't even say offers. They were trying to find academic money, things like that for me to get me in the program. But I went to look at Indiana University. We were out in that area, and I loved Bobby Knight. I loved the basketball program. So they had a great business program. I asked the coach for a walk-on tryout. He told me no. I wrote him an email. He said no. I called him. He said no. I think I got about 5 or 6 no's. Then I finally ran into him in person one time, went over to introduce myself. And I think the exact words were, Jesus Christ, kid, I'll give you a 6-month tryout, and then I'm going to cut you. And I said, I'll see you in the fall, coach. And went to Indiana University with the sole idea of getting a good business degree And then I would stay in the sports world somewhere. I've always just been a massive sports fanatic, so I didn't know what role that was going to be. Probably in the golf course realm, I'd be a head professional at a golf course or something along those lines. But I kind of piggybacked off of our first team All-American. I did whatever he was doing. I'd follow him around. I'd play with him when nobody else wanted to play because it was too cold. Slowly got better, and then I ended up being number one on the team after the second year, going into the second year, I guess. I was all Big Ten a couple times, but again, never thought about playing professional golf. Just it was a different level of athletics I never thought I could achieve. So that was the college run, and then I tried the mini tour circuit for a couple of years, basically to postpone a job. And I got better, a little bit better every single year. I went from making about half the cuts to making a lot more of the cuts and contending, to winning on the mini tours, to dominating on the mini tours, and then took the next step to get to the Korn Ferry, which is now the Korn Ferry Tour. At the time, I think it was Nationwide Tour, but just the whole adage of one day at a time, one golf tournament at a time, that's the way I kind of lived my life. I didn't know what it was going to look like 2 weeks from now, but I knew I had to go play good golf today, and I knew I had to focus on the things that I could focus on, could control, and that's where the professional golf came about.
Wow. Okay, so the episode before this, we had Terry Fossum on it. Terry's in the book, former Air Force and all that stuff. And I was asking Terry because he was talking about those who achieve their goals and those who don't. And I said, well, okay, let's look at someone who has a just unrealistic goal, something that is too big. Everyone's telling them, they keep trying, and they keep getting the no's. What do you tell them? He said, can I say this on your show? He said, bullshit. Like that quickly.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've never cussed on a podcast before, but he was so emphatic about there is no goal, there is no thing that you're trying to achieve that you can't get to if you don't just continue with the determination, with the trying. So for you to get that many no's, I mean, how many people probably went out there, I shot an email to the coach, didn't get a response, got a no, and they quit. I mean, that's truly a story of determination, which is incredible.
Or just pure stubbornness, which my wife might argue with you is probably the case.
But you can tell her it's determination.
Yeah, we'll go with that. It sounds a lot better. I just, even when he said yes, it's like, okay, I at least got free golf balls for 6 months. Like I can come and just hit some golf balls and, I'll help the team out any way I can, one of those things. But it panned out, thank goodness. And I came back the next year and qualified number one. I actually beat out the first team All-American on our team, and the coach looked and said, what got into you? And I was like, I don't know. All this stuff you're teaching must be working. But again, it was just like, he's like, I'm not going to play you number one. I was like, I don't want to play number one. I just want to play in the starting lineup somewhere. And just put me out there. That's all I wanted was a chance. And the fact that I was even able to do that was really cool to me, that I was going to play Division I golf. I was going to play at a big school like in Indiana.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a heck of a run there.
So then you got done and you're kind of still playing golf in and out, and you so tell me about the path to your first tour card and then the longevity on and off the tour. Yeah,
as I said, even when I was playing my last year, I was 2-time All Big Ten, but I mean, I was an average player, very average. I was overachieving, I guess, and I never thought about turning professional. I just assumed I was going to get back into the workforce, go be a head professional at a golf course, something along those lines. And everybody around me from other schools that I'd been playing with for the last 4 years kept saying, I'm going to turn pro. When I graduate, I'm going to turn pro. And I was like, it what? And I honestly didn't know. And they're like, at golf. And I was like, well, you suck. Like, I suck, and I've been beating you for 4 years. And I never understood it. But I said, all right, maybe there is something. Maybe I should be trying this. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit. And so I tried it. And as I said earlier, just more of a way to postpone a job. And I was able to raise a little bit of money, so it wasn't coming out of my own pocket. And I said, maybe this lasts 6 months, maybe this lasts the rest of my life. I have no idea, but we'll give it a shot now, see where it leads. And at least that way there's no regrets looking back, right? I at least can say that I tried to play professional golf. It didn't work out, and I ended up here. But like I said, I just progressed up the mini tours one year after another, and then I finally got the big break and got to the Korn Ferry Tour. Played terribly, finished about 85th on the money list. I was like, well, I tried it, didn't make it. Maybe it's time to hang it up. And I went to the qualifying tournament one last time, trying to get a full Korn Ferry Tour card for the next year so I could kind of map out my schedule a little bit better. And I I had a great final 3 rounds. I shot 65, 65, 67, ended up finishing 7th and got a PGA Tour card, which I was not ready for, and I knew I wasn't ready for. And knew I was going to get my butt kicked. I mean, but it's a little intimidating for a small-town guy that doesn't really believe in himself a whole lot to go out and stand on the driving range with Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy and Davis Love, Ernie Els, you name it, all the guys that I've been watching on TV for so many years, and now they're literally standing right in front of me hitting golf balls, getting ready to play the same tournament that I have to go play in. But you know what? I did. I got my butt kicked all year, and I was fine with that. I just, at the end of the year, I looked and said, what do they do that I don't? How can I get better? What do I need to do to get better? And, you know, back to the grind, back to the starting block. And that's what I focused on was, how can I get better tomorrow? How can I get better next week? And I slowly worked myself back up to, you know, played the Korn Ferry the next year, got back to the PGA in 10, back to Korn Ferry in 11, PGA in 12. I just bounced back and forth for a while, and I finally got on a good run. 2015 to 18, I played on the PGA Tour and had some good success out there. Should have won a couple different times, but just never got the W. And then 2019 came, and I lost my card, had to go back to the Korn Ferry. And just said enough was enough. I didn't want to do another year out there. After that one, I didn't get my PGA Tour card back, and 2 young kids at home, and retirement was looming anyway. I was getting old, body was breaking down, and enough was enough. I wanted to be a dad more than I wanted to be a golfer.
As I listen to all this, I go back to your original answer of the 2, and we'll get to the second one.
Yeah.
But as I look at the path that you had, there are times where you could have settled in and said, I made it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm on the team. I'm number 1. I'm a pro. And you could have been a talker, right? You could have been the one saying, I know what I'm doing now.
Yep.
Look what I've achieved. But you were always one that was looking at everyone else that was above you, and you were listening. You were paying attention. You were emulating what the greatest were doing.
Yep.
And I think there are times where people do get, you know, maybe it's the hubris of success, but they get to that complacency, whatever you want to call it, but they get to the goal that they want to reach and they go, I'm here. I did it. And then all of a sudden they have this self-inflated ego of, well, now I can tell everyone everything because look at me. Instead, you took it. And I think to some points, you talk about you busted your ass to be mediocre. Yeah. And we were talking before the show, it's all relative, right? Mm-hmm. And you and I talked about it the first time we met of the probably millions of people who have picked up a golf club, you're in a very small percent at the top.
Yep.
Now, no, you weren't number 1, but you know, it's all relative. And I think there's something really great in that, but you know, there's also, you know, it makes you kind of unsettled, right? Because you're like, well, I could have been number 1. I could have had those W's.
Yep.
But if you really look at it, you achieve something that people dream of.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's things that you look at that you never thought possible. I think you've talked about, you thought professional golfers were superhumans or something like that, right? But you kept looking and you just kept getting better. D. Brown talks about in the book, it's that 1% better every day. Yep. It's not looking at the big chunk of going, well, I'm a freshman, I'm going to go play pro. And I think a lot of people do that today. They see social media, they see all the people out there going, oh, look at this success, this system, whatever, and they're jumping all the little steps, all the little things that have to happen, and all the times where you do have to shut up, even though you might be right. Yeah. But you have to shut up and just, you know, either take it for what it is because where you are, or actually listen and try to get better.
Yeah. I think to your point there, I think the thought of a professional golf career is very daunting, right? You think about it, and as you said, I thought they were mythical creatures, right? They were on different levels. They were, as I think I wrote in a letter one time, I said there was a better chance of me owning a Chick-fil-A on the moon than there was playing professional golf, right? That's kind of how I put the two side by side. Like there's a better chance of me getting up to the moon somehow and doing this. But if you don't look long term, if you don't look at, hey, look, I'm going to be a professional golfer. It's nice to dream. It's always good to have dreams and think big, but you can't achieve a lot of that stuff day one. You can't achieve a professional golf career in middle school or in high school, and for the most part. But you just take one day at a time and slowly get better and just keep working at it. And all of a sudden, that daunting idea of being a professional golfer, being one of the best players in the world, slowly starts to happen intrinsically through what you're doing, right? And it is all relative. And if you told me in high school, like, hey, you're going to play 350 PGA Tour events or professional golf events, I would have said there isn't a chance in hell, right? But once you get out there, and then all of a sudden, a week becomes 2 weeks, becomes a month, becomes a year, becomes 14-year career, and they just keep stacking up, and you kind of lose focus of where you are. You just know that, hey, I got to get better, or hey, I should have won this event in Canada. Now I got to go to Tahoe next week and try to get that W, or I got to do this, and then the year ends, and you're like, wow, that went by really fast. Goes right into the next year, and you do it all over again. So I mean, it's amazing how it just keeps, as long as you just stay in the moment, stay in the process, and just keep moving, it's amazing how fast everything goes. So you got to try to, I wish I had looked around a little bit more when I was out there. It sounds easy to say now, and I sound like the old man, get off my lawn guy, but it's easy to have perspective when you get older, and looking back, I wish I had enjoyed more of the moment instead of being so hard and focused on, I have to do this, I have to get better, I have to, and golfers are weird, especially the elite golfers. We're all wired a little differently. We just have this mentality where you have to be selfish to be a good golfer. And it's a weird thing to say, but you have to take time to build your craft. You have to take time to practice, to focus on all these other things. So you have to put things on the back burner, whether it be friendships, whether it be hobbies, vacations, even family to an extent. It's like, yeah, I'd love to be playing with my kids or be at every birthday party or be at all these things. But it's like, no, I have a golf tournament that week. I have to go play. I have to try to get money for the family. I have to try to get that first win. So you need to be selfish. And it's a fine line to balance. But again, we're all just a little weird, and we get wrapped up in the moment. And we don't think about, hey, I've missed 2 of my kids' birthdays parties, and he's 4 years old, and I've missed 2 of them. It's, I have to go work. But again, once you get into that mindset, it's hard to come out of that.
Yeah, and I think that goes for, certainly anyone at elite level, whether that's a golfer, an entrepreneur, an actor, or whatever.
Yep.
There's that sacrifice, and I always hate the work-life balance. I think that's just absolute crap, because there is no line.
No.
There's not. I mean, there's answering emails at midnight, and there's
Yep.
Getting out of work at 4 for to go home. It's just this blending of it's life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not work life. It's just life.
Yep.
So you talked about the individuality, and we've had some Olympians, triathletes. I've done some ultra stuff, so I understand that individual aspect of it, because baseball, very team oriented, right?
Yep.
Like, yes, I wanted to be the best of my position, but I don't think it was as cutthroat, where with you guys, it's like, hey, nice to see you, but later on.
Yeah.
So was there any kind of camaraderie? Because it seems like when you were in college, you had the older guys you could look up to and kind of emulate. And I talked a little bit about it, and we've mentioned it, but were there some guys that not necessarily took you under their wing, but as you got on the tour, you went and kind of, I don't know, imprinted on, but said, I want to be like a Rory, like a Tiger, like a whatever?
That's a good question. And I think I can go 2 different ways with that. Did I want to be those guys? Yes. Did I want their career? Did I want their mentality? Did I want all these things? Yes. Is there camaraderie out there? No, absolutely not. The further you get in the game of golf, when you play high school golf, it's great. You have a blast with your friends. College golf, same thing. You're traveling. You're doing all these fun things with your collegiate buddies. Mini tours, nobody has any money. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're rooting for each other. If I don't win, I want him to win. And then the Korn Ferry Tour is like, hey, we still went to dinners together. We still hung out. PGA Tour, it is a full-blown business. There's no camaraderie. There's very little talking. There's, I get asked that all the time. That's one of the questions I get asked the most. Who are your best friends on tour? I was like, I don't really have any great friends from the tour. And I was one of the friendliest guys out there. I was friends with everybody, but I wasn't, if I got married tomorrow, none of the guys from the PGA Tour would have been in my wedding, right? And you see that a lot, especially with some of the best players in the world too. It's like, yeah, there weren't any golfers in my wedding. That's just, you don't establish those relationships out there, and it is a lot more cutthroat. And you don't want to give anybody something that they might use to beat you, that week. And I didn't really look at it that way, but I know that's how the rest of the tour looked at it. I just assumed, I was fine if you shot 65 that day. I just wanted to shoot 64. And I kind of looked at it that way. It's like, well, if you're going to play well, I just need to play better. And I'm not going to root against you, so to speak. But I don't know. It was just it's a very different lifestyle, and especially the further you get along and you get into that isolation and you get into, instead of the having family around, having friends around, having all those things that you can lean on for the mental health support, it's very lonely. It's very, because now you're playing with the best players in the world. And when you're not playing well, you're sitting in hotel rooms by yourself. And instead of talking to your friends and family and getting that support, no, you're by yourself. And you're online and scrolling through social media and how great everybody else's life is. And then there's also reporters, they're going to be talking about you because you were really good and now you're not so good, and they're going to rip you apart. So now you get to read about how bad you suck too, while feeling like you suck in a hotel room by yourself with no support around you. So I think that the further you go in the game of golf, the harder it is mentally. Physically, it's all the same stuff for the most part. Granted, there's the Scotty Schefflers and the Roy McIlroys. Those guys are superhuman, and they do things that other people can't do with a golf club. But for the most part, Mini Tour, Korn Ferry, PGA Tour, it's all golf shots. Like, it's all the same stuff. It's the same round of golf. It's the same scores we're shooting. Some guys are a little more talented than others, but it's usually the head stuff that sets people apart.
That's interesting. And so you talked about the isolation on tour, and then I know you're a big advocate of the identity crisis and helping people transition, and whether that's from a college golfer, now what do I do? Like you, what am I going to do now? Am I going to be a pro? Am I going to go corporate America? What the heck am I going to do?
Yep.
And I told you I had that identity crisis when I was done at JU. I'd played baseball. I think I started at 6 years old. And I'm 21, 22 years old, and now my whole identity is just ripped out from under me.
Yep.
Going, who am I? What am I? Mm-hmm. And so talk to me a little bit about that transition, because as you go, you've got the pressure mounting, then the career, comes to a close, and you've got this identity crisis. And I know you talk about that. So talk to the audience about what you went through in that process.
Yeah, for the audience, get a pen and paper and just write at the top what not to do, because that's basically the road I went down.
Perfect.
So I walked away from the golf in 2019. I had full status on the Korn Ferry Tour still. I was done. I was burnt out. Didn't want to play golf anymore. Wanted to be a dad. Wanted to be home. Have a little more normalcy in my life again. And so I walked away from the game, and I got a job as a financial advisor, working for a great company. I had great people around me. It was a really good setup. And I didn't miss the game. It's strange. I did not miss playing professional golf. I thought I would. And I was 6 months in, and my wife even looked at me because I'd be sitting there watching golf on the weekend. She's like, "You don't miss this?" I'm like, "No, I don't. Like, I'm burnt out. I'm tired. I just didn't want to do it anymore." And this is great because I didn't know what I was going to feel either, right? So that being said, I just dove right into the next profession the same way I did the golf. I went through all the certifications, the licensing, everything I needed to be doing, but I cranked them all out in, it usually takes people a year and a half. I did them in 4 months. Just because I'm like, I just want to get these done. Boom, 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 boom. What's next? Okay, I got it. I'll study. Done. Passed all the exams first time. Got into that world. Everything was going fine. I mean, I was winning awards with the company. Was doing well enough. And about a year and a half in, I started waking up, and I'm like, I don't feel right. Like, I just feel down in the dumps. I feel depressed, and I've never been depressed in my life. And then a day led to a week, led to a month, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just out of it. Like, I'm tired all the time. I'm just not in good moods. I'm frustrated. And again, I didn't miss the game. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
And one day I woke up and I had a big case that was supposed to go through, and it was going to be much needed commission that my family needed. And the guy texted me that morning. He was like, "Hey, we're going to hold off on implementing all the stuff in at least a year and a half or so." And I was there by myself, and my heart rate started flying. I was sweating. I got red-faced. I was having a panic attack of some kind. And nothing crazy, nothing over the top, but it just hit me really, really hard.
And that was the first time you had one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it was a full, because I've seen my wife, has experienced panic attacks and things like that. It wasn't where I was calling an ambulance, but like, my heart rate, just standing there in my living room, was probably 130, 140, just standing there. I'm like, okay, I'm freaking out about something. Yeah. And I walked over and I poured a big old glass of vodka and put a little bit of orange juice on the top. I sat down, turned on SportsCenter, and about 20 minutes later, I realized how relaxed I was. And I was like, wow, this is really taking the edge off. And enough where I got up and poured myself a second one, and probably took one to work with me. I don't even remember. But that drink changed everything. That drink is, I said in my letter, like, that drink is where part of me died, because then it just became a different way of living, where alcohol was my way of self-medicating, and all it was just numbing myself. And I'd been a social drinker my whole life. I never had a problem with alcohol. I enjoyed having drinks with friends and going out. I enjoyed having a drink at night, but it was always in control, and this is the first time where I used it as a weapon. And all I did was just try to numb myself so that I didn't have to deal with whatever the heck I was feeling. And I went through a really nasty place. I went down this dark, isolated, lonely road for 2 years, and I would seek isolation, which I'd never done in my life. Like, I would try to find ways to be alone. I tried to find ways to be away from people. And I was always the one that needed to be around people. I'm an extrovert by nature. I like to, be near people, talk to people. COVID drove me insane. I couldn't sit there and just not talk to people, right? I need those interactions. And so 2 years went by, and I was having health problems, was in and out of the hospital a bunch, usually liver related, no surprise. And just finally said enough was enough, and I checked myself into a treatment facility, was in there for about 35 days, and I knew immediately that the alcohol wasn't the problem. It was just what I was using, but I needed to get to the bottom of why was I feeling this way? Why did I hate myself? Why was I depressed? Why? And to the original question and the original point, it was just an identity crisis. Like, I had no idea who I was anymore. I had been Steve the golfer since I was 14 years old probably. And now, even though I didn't miss the game, I think I just missed that persona, or I didn't even know who I was without that persona. And it was just hard waking up knowing that my whole life that I had lived to that point had completely changed, and I didn't know who I was anymore. And it's a scary place to be. And unfortunately, I took the wrong way out. And if I had done the right things and gone to see somebody and talked to this through and worked through my problems, I probably never would have gotten into that. But instead, I chose to be stubborn, take the easy way out, which is just sit there and drink a lot, numb yourself, just live in a fog for 2 years. But again, it doesn't fix anything. All it does is compound the problems. And so now your body's falling apart and your head's falling apart, and all that stress, all that anxiety, all that hatred, everything's still there. You just kind of put it off for a little while.
It's you've been very brave in sharing your story. So you put a letter out. It's May 2nd, right? It's the
May 2nd was my sober date. Yeah.
So May 2nd is your sobriety date, and it was
Yep.
the title of the letter that you put out very publicly. And it's a brave thing to share struggles, because there are so many people, and I know you got an immediate, very large, very positive response from
Yep.
sharing your struggles, sharing the fact that you had been sober for a year. And when you look at all these things, I mean, I don't think you did anything wrong. I mean, yes, it certainly hurt yourself. It hurt people, the people that you love. But, to me, I look at this as, you were using self-medication. It's one of the easiest things that you can do. And you're right, you had to get to the bottom of it. But I think that's part of the process, right? Like, you had to hit your proverbial rock bottom to finally get the wake-up call. So what, you said in and out of the hospital. So it wasn't, oh my God, I had a health scare, now it's time, or my wife's angry, now it's time. What was that decision to finally say, you know what, enough is enough? And finally, because it's the pattern, right? You fall into a pattern of, I drink, I feel better, even though you're not going to be better.
Yep.
But you get into that program and you hit that loop. So when did you finally decide, I'm going to glitch this thing and I'm going to get out of this loop and start something new?
Yeah, I honestly, I probably had a couple different rock bottoms. One, I was feeling terrible. I went to go see my doctor because I wasn't feeling right. And as I'm sitting there, I'm sweating profusely. I'm shaking a little bit. I couldn't figure out what was going on. She's like, you need to go to the ER. And the ER, they were like, look, if you have another drink, it could be the last drink you ever have. Like, you're that far along, you're that bad. It's gotten awful. Your liver's in really bad shape. And so I stopped cold turkey that day, and I stopped drinking for 2 months, better part of 2 months. And actually handled it pretty well. I missed it, but I just figured I got to get my body healthy again. But again, this is the mind of the alcoholic, was let me just get my get my body healthy enough where I can be a social drinker again. Well, I know now that's not how that works, right? And about 2 months in, I had the first sign of big stress again. It was job related, and I was driving to Hilton Head to go for Thanksgiving with my family. They were already up there. And I got this phone call, and it did not go as planned, and it got me really worked up again. I pulled right over, grabbed a bottle, and drank it all weekend and was right back at it. And once it starts, it goes full bore. It's not like you kind of half-ass it again. It's full-blown drinking again, and it's hiding it everywhere. It's, drinking in the mornings, noons, nights, whatever it is. And I probably went on that road for another 6 months or so, just full-blown back at it again. And when I was in the hospital for, I don't know what time this was, I thought I was actually having a stroke. I was out walking the dog, and I was having a hard time seeing, and
Wow.
just different symptoms. But they're like, you need to go to the hospital, and I was in there for 5 days. And I think everybody had just gotten tired of it. It's like, we're sick of coming here. Your kids are sick. They don't want to see you here anymore. You have to do something different. And I agreed. I fought it at first and said, I only need to go for a couple days, or I need to go do. And at the same time, like, I'm stubborn, but I'm also smart enough to know that I've been trying to beat this thing for 2 years, and I haven't been able to do it. Everything I've tried hasn't worked. As they say in the meetings now, it's like my best thinking got me here, into a treatment facility or into AA meetings. And so I needed the help. And again, it didn't take long to realize that it wasn't the alcohol. Like, I wish I had seen that. I wish I'd been smart enough to see that. And if I had talked to somebody, I probably would have seen that. But it was just a matter of, okay, we need to really, you need to look in the mirror here and really do some self-reflection. Like, why do you hate yourself? Why are you going down this road? Why do you, and it's hard. I mean, nobody likes to pick themselves apart like that. But it's one of the most freeing things you can ever do in your life, because now there's no secrets. You don't hide from anything anymore. And now you can be honest with not only the people around you, but with yourself. And, it's funny how you wake up one day and you're clear-minded for the first time in a long time, and you're not afraid of what somebody might see in you or what you might see in yourself even. I mean, it's just, now you start to work through different things and you live a happier life because of it.
So I love where we're about to go with this, because we're going to bring it all the way back, Steve.
All right.
So at the point where you needed help, you were a taker. You took help.
Yep.
From a facility. And again, it's a brave decision to go out there, because you know that people around you are going to know that you've gone away, but at some point you realize that you had to get help outside of yourself.
Yep.
And so to go to a center, we actually have at the Determined Society, can't stumble that one, the Determined Society, our presented by sponsor is White Sands Treatment, which is a treatment facility here in Florida. And they do a lot with mental health and helping people realize that alcohol is yet a symptom of a much deeper problem. So shout out to them, and to you as well, because there are plenty of people that listen to the show that have loved ones that need help, and there's nothing wrong with getting help, because you've come out the other side and now you get to be a giver. So
I do.
Talk about giving, and again, it's not always, you're not always going to be a taker, always going to be a giver. At this stage of your life, you're a giver. So talk to me about the Mulligan Foundation.
Yeah.
Everything going on there.
Yeah. So when I got out of the treatment facility, I'll be honest, and we kind of need to start there, because I was scared. And it was weird. I got out of that bubble over there, because there it's safe. It's easy. You have the same people around you. You don't have access to alcohol. You're basically like locked into an area. And then all of a sudden when you get out, you're like, now I'm back out in public. Now I can go make bad decisions if I wanted to. Now I'm going to see bottles of liquor when I go grocery shopping. Now I'm going to, I'm putting myself back into places that could be scary if I don't handle things the right way, right? Mm-hmm. So it took me a couple months, and I made sure that I was good inside. Made sure that I was, becoming a good father again, a good husband again, a good friend again, good everything again. And kind of when I got through that space, I still felt like I needed to do something else. I felt like almost like I knew a secret that I needed to tell somebody. And we had lost a friend of ours on the PGA Tour. He went through something very, very similar to myself, but then he took his own life. And I knew that the golf community out there was struggling a little bit with a lot of what I was going through as well. Maybe not the identity side, but mental health issues. So I reached out to some agents, some players, some caddies, just some old friends, and said, hey, look, guys, here's what I've been through the last 2 years. Do you think there's a problem out there? Do you think guys need to hear from guys like myself on what I went through? And they said, absolutely, 100%. There is definitely a mental health issue out there. We need to get, any stories are good stories right now. We need to help as many people as we can. So I wrote this letter. It was probably about a 5-minute read. It was very in-depth. As I told my family, it's going to be very dark. It's going to be very open, very honest. It's going to hurt to read. But that's what it has to be. It has to be real. That's the only way you get through to people. And I was getting ready to send it to the 200 players on the PGA Tour, and instead I put it on Twitter at the last second. And I don't know why I did that, other than the fact that I just felt like more people probably needed to see it and hear that message. And I hit send, and my first thought was, what the hell did I just do? And I told my wife, I was like, I got to go get out of here. I got to go walk the dog. Took the dog for a walk, came back in. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, I think so. And she saw me looking at my phone. She's like, you know you're going to have to look at it at some point, right? And I was like, yep. And I grabbed my phone, and I brought it up, and I had probably 100 text messages already, emails, voicemails. I had calls from the Golf Channel, CBS, ESPN. I had over 100,000 people had already read the letter, and it had been an hour. So it obviously got shared and sent all the way around everywhere. But it was very intimidating, but at the same time, I realized the power of the message and how many people needed to read something like that. And I got a ton of messages over the next month from people that were struggling with the same things and actually talked about it for the first time in their life. You know, I've been an alcoholic for 5 years, and I can't remember the last day I didn't have a drink, and I've gone 4 days without drinking since I read your letter. And I read those, and I had to read it a second time. I'm like, oh my God, like my little, 5-minute letter is making changes in people's lives. And it was really, really cool. And it was nice to see that, because I had to lean on people for help, and I had been looking for help and searching for anything that could have helped me at one point in my life. And if this letter was that for somebody else, then great. I'm doing my part to give back and to help, because I know how badly I was looking for help, and I had no idea where to look. And, I sat there and I looked at these helplines that the PGA Tour had for us and different avenues that we could go through and call this person. And all I kept picturing was like a woman on the other end of a switchboard that's just going to pick up the phone, and she doesn't know the first thing about me. And so I went through all those resources, then I closed my laptop, I grabbed my phone, I sent 2 DMs on Instagram to Grayson Murray, the gentleman who unfortunately took his life about 2 months later, and then another gentleman who was on the PGA Tour that battled alcoholism as well and came out the other side of it. So I was more comfortable going to them than I was going to the trained professionals, right? Because they would understand where I was coming from. So I started the Mulligan Foundation for a lot of those same reasons, is that, hey, look, I was an athlete. I lived this. I lived the athlete side the way you did. I was one of the best golfers in the world. And then I went through some really dark times. I went through some nasty, identity issues that I didn't know how to face. But I can't, I'm not a licensed professional. I can't teach you how to do that. But I've got resources behind me now that we can start the conversation. I can show you that there is a way to get help. And then I have great people around me that are licensed to help you. But I can at least get the conversation started.
That's fantastic, Steve. So I want to make sure, for those of you listening, watching, I'm going to put the link to the letter as well as a link to the website in the show notes, because it is very important, again, helping people know that there is a community of former athletes, people that have been there, done that. They aren't talking about just theory or book stuff. It's people that have lived exactly the situation that someone's going through right now that can help. Yep. All right, Steve, I've got to wrap it up with one final question, okay? This is part of the Determined Society. Okay. What does determination mean to you?
Not quitting. Having grit, resiliency, and not being willing to quit, because it's so easy to quit. And I tell people that all the time. Like, quitting's the easy way out. The hard work and the rewards you see only come through resiliency and grit. If something comes easy to you, you don't build that resiliency, right? But find something that's really hard for you to do, and then put the time in, get better, work through it. That's what it means.
Even if that means 6 no's and showing up on coach's doorstep.
I've been kicked and knocked down enough, and I don't know. Again, we'll go back to stubborn, or what was it?
Determined.
Determined, yep. It's stubborn or determined. Yeah, we'll go with either one, but both of them work the same. But yeah, I wasn't willing to take no for an answer.
There you go. Well, Steve, new friend, I'm so glad we had you on the show. Thank you for coming on. Again, everyone, please go follow him. Check out the show notes for everything related to Steve and all the great work he's doing. Steve, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.